Greetings, nerdlings. For the moment, any game vids I'm doing are going to be short because I'm literally doing them single-handedly. I don't just mean I'm doing them on my own. That's a given. I'm doing them one-handed because at the moment, as you can see, grand here. This thing, however, is a wrist brace. I've been to my doctor about it, and my wrist is causing me some major problems. Before anybody makes those jokes about too much masturbation, which I know some of you are going to make, and I know you too, Penny, are probably going to make that joke, or probably already have by the time this vid airs. I'm right-handed, but it's still very difficult to type and control the game with a controller when part of your one of your hands is immobilized. Now, as you can see, I can still move fingers and everything like that. It's just not as good as I used to be. So, for the moment, they're going to be short games. And I'm going to start off with one of my all-time favorites, Golden Axe for the Sega Mega Drive. This recently became free on Steam. It's no longer free on Steam at the time of recording this, but I got it for free on Steam. A proper emulated port of the game. You get an emulator and you get the games for the Sega Mega Drive or the Sega Genesis, as it was known in America. Now, in Golden Axe, you get to play as 3 characters. I only learned today that the characters actually have names, because in the game you just see them and you pick one, and it doesn't give you much information about them. The game is in a fantasy setting. Now, the 3 characters you get to pick from are a girl in red, a guy in blue, and a short guy in green. I'm guessing the short guy is a dwarf because he looks like the stereotypical fantasy dwarf. He's short, he has a helmet with spikes or horns coming out of it, and he's got an axe. So he could be, he might be a Viking representative or something like that, but as most of us know at this stage, Vikings never wore helmets like that. That was only done in plays and things like and operas to make it more dramatic looking. Now, the 3 characters you get to play as are called Axe Battler, which I'm guessing is the dwarf, Tiris Flare, which I'm guessing by the name Tiris is the girl, and Gilius Thunderhead. And yes, I'm reading them off of a screen right now because I'm crap at remembering the names of characters like that, especially considering the game doesn't give you much. Right? Now, the game has a minor amount of magic in it, and I do mean minor. You can collect these, what look like mana potions, and each character has a certain amount of them they can collect. When you reach the maximum amount of mana potions that you can collect, you can do an all-powerful spell that pretty much kills anything, with the exception of bosses. Bosses are hurt by these overpowered spells, but they're not killed. They're just hurt severely. The game has no difficulty settings whatsoever. You get thrown in and you have to survive. There's only 3 things you can do besides moving from left to right and up and down. Right? And it's a side scroller, so the up and down thing is like barely noticeable that you can do it. There's a tiny bit you can do, but not much. There, you can move, so that's, we'll say 4 things, right? So you've got the movement, you can jump, you can attack, and you can use magic. Your attacks are very basic. Axe Battler, as you can tell by the name, he has an axe and he swings it. That's his attack. If you do a jump attack, you jump and he swings the axe. If you're playing as one of the other 2, they both have swords. They can jump and attack as well, and they swing their sword down. So, yeah, there's not much mechanics to it. You can do a speed run across the screen by double tapping in a direction, and your character will begin to run in that direction, but only works from left to right. You can't speed run up or down. And if you hit the attack button, you'll do a special attack. The Gilius Thunderhead, who I'm guessing is the guy in blue, is his thing is if you do that, and if you do the speed run across the screen and you attack, he shoulders into your opponents, and the attacks can affect two opponents who are side by side or pretty much overlaid on top of each other, and it will knock them back and knock them to the ground, stunning them temporarily. However, for some reason you can't attack them while they're actually prone on the ground, so there's no head stomping mechanic or attack them while they're down thing or anything like that. You have to wait until they get back up, and some of these cunts are over fucking powered. There's a point where you come across two guys. They're absolutely fucking massive. They walk out of a building that you're near, but that you've just essentially walked up to it. The doors of the building open, and out walks a guy with a big hammer. And then the doors open again, and out walks his twin brother, essentially. This is the exact same fucking guy. And they can one hit you and knock you to the ground with their hammers without doing any special attacks. They just slam you to the ground with their fucking hammer. So you have to be fast. You have to attack them at the right time. But like, the stuff this game got you to do was fucking amazing in my opinion. You could come across opponents who were on mounts, and if you hit them, they'd get knocked off the mount. Now the mounts were basically dinosaurs, in my opinion. One of them, each mount had its own attack. I've only ever come across 3 of them. This game is almost impossible to beat, in my opinion. But I will do it sometime soon, I hope. So, yeah, there's 3 mounts that I've come across. One of them is a low to the ground, 4-legged mount that when you press the attack button, this guy swings his tail and trips up anything that it hits. No matter how big or small it is, it's going down. Some of your smaller level enemies will get one hit killed by this thing. The other 2 look similar to raptors from Jurassic Park. You get onto them, they stand up on 2 legs, and one of them breathes fire at a downward angle from his mouth and hits a spot a certain distance away from every single time. And that's pretty cool, and it does fire damage, obviously, since it's a fire attack, but it's not the handiest of all things to do. There is a different version of that mount. It comes in a different color, and this guy shoots a fireball out of his mouth every time you press the attack button, which in my opinion is a lot better than the one where he breathes fire down onto the ground. So I prefer that one. But you can come across all 3 of them. Now the thing is, if you get knocked off the mount a certain amount of times, the mount will fuck off. Also, if you as the player get knocked off the mount, enemies can get onto the mount. The only exception to enemies getting on mounts is the guys that are abnormally huge, which is mostly bosses, but there are mini bosses who are just as big. And the 2 guys I mentioned with the hammers that can pound you into the ground, they're mini bosses. You come across them a couple of minutes before you get to the boss. You can only press continue a certain amount of times because it was originally a port of an arcade game. I never got to play the original arcade game, but I think it would have been fun to play, and it would have been a lot better if I could play it in the arcade, because then they would have made a fucking fortune off me and I would have beat the game. But that's all I'm going to say about Golden Axe. I didn't expect this to be a 10-minute long vid, to be honest. Hopefully soon I'll be able to stop wearing this thing and it will stop interfering with my ability to do anything pretty much. You should have seen me eating dinner with this thing, trying to cook things. It's awkward, to say the least. So thank you for watching, thank you for putting up with me, and as always, remember, play to game and game to play.